Good morning, lovelies. So, this morning's video is about my good winter dress, is basically how I'm putting it. I'm using well, I call it a black watch taffeta, but it's a polyester plaid, dark green and black. And I really love how this one turned out. It's gorgeous. It is a little tight in the sleeves, so I may have to end up taking those off and redoing them because I do have a lot of scrap left. But I edged the collar in black velvet, as well as the bottom of the sleeve and the bottom of the hem. I'm calling this my good winter dress because this is what I will wear out to performances, to plays, to theater. Generally, it is just a nice dress for special occasions. So, I will see you all at the end of the video, and I hope you all enjoy. Okay, so here I am getting ready to prep the bodice. Again, I will be sewing all my darts and doing the long tail method, meaning at the tip of the dart, I won't be going backwards and forwards to secure the stitch. I'll be leaving long tails to tie down. This helps the dart seem a little more seamless and creates less bulk at the top, meaning it'll fit better and it'll look better altogether. Oh, this fabric was at Joann's. I'm not sure if they've got it anymore. It's a poly taffeta, and I love it because it is a black watch pattern. This pattern did not call for full line in the bodice, but because this is a poly taffeta, I wanted to fully line the bodice to finish the seams on the inside. So what I did was I cut the facings out of just interfacing, and then I cut the lining out of the regular pieces. I then fused the interfacing to the lining, which is just a black poly, either taffeta or lining that I had left over. Once I've got all those done, once I've got the bodice darts done, I moved on to these darts, which are the sleeve darts. This is a reproduction 1950s pattern, and they have darts along the edge of the sleeve, making it fit a little better. I then go on to sew up the collar. My original goal when I started this project was to have the bodice completed in a day. However, I ran into one big issue with that. I put velvet ribbon around the edge, and I figured out right after I made the collar, because of how big it is, it's best to trim it with the velvet before attaching it to the bodice, so I had to get the ribbon. But it was just a 3/8 inch ribbon from Joann's, and I got like a little too much of it, which is okay because I then used it for the headbands. But this allowed me to stitch on the velvet ribbon around the edge of the collar before sewing it to the bodice, which made it easier to, finagle around the edges. But this ribbon also helps to distinguish between the collar and the bodice. So here's the ribbon I'm using. It adds a nice touch, and I do think that when I do this as a summer dress, because it'll be kind of sailory style, I will do the ribbon around the collar again, simply because it looks really nice, and it helps to say this is the collar edge and gives a nice defined line. Yes. What was I saying? So yes, I fully lined the bodice, which means I just fused the interface to the lining, which is just a black poly taffeta that I had laying around, some scrap. And then I used some scrap from my winter cloak to do the sleeves because they're very, very fitted. Like, they were so fitted that I ended up having to let that seam out around the elbow so I'd have some range of movement. But yes. So once that is done, as in all the velvet ribbons sewn on, you can sew the collar to the bodice, making sure to leave enough space to, you know, trim the seam allowance, and then you'll go through and sew the lining to the, here is the velvet ribbon on the collar, and you can see it definitely helps to find that edge. So yes, I'll sew that collar onto the bodice, basting it along the edge to hold it in place, and then I'll sew the lining to the bodice and collar mixture, and then I'll understitch as much as I can around the collar. This is kind of involved project. Well, once I've assembled the bodice, anyway. I kind of skipped that step because I was trying to follow the instructions. But, so the back of the outfit to the front, leaving one side seam open so that I can put in the invisible zipper, because this one does not have a back zipper, it has an invisible zipper. So I do think next time I do it, I'm going to use a heavier gauge zipper so that it, you know, fits a little better. I'm also hoping by the time that I do another one, I'll have my serger done, so I won't line that one. I'll just wear a slip underneath if it's a sheer fabric. But I'm hoping that the serger will be fixed by that time, so I can just serge the inside edges and worry a little bit less about it, as in frame. So once the shoulder seams are done, then you can do the collar, attaching of the collar piece. And you do want to lay this so that the top side of the collar is facing up, meaning the wrong side of the collar to the right side of the dress, or the bodice. Really, the most involved part of this dress was doing the bodice. The skirt was just kind of rectangles that you gather up around the waist. I did end up adding the tulle underlayer simply to give it a poof, because I do not have any petticoats. I should probably fix that at some point, but currently it was just easier for me to go through and add the tulle to the tulle underskirt, basically. I will say the tulle can stick to any kind of tights or pantyhose you're wearing, so you have to be kind of careful and get something a little more slippery. But since this is a good occasion dress, I was okay with that, because I was going to be wearing more shiny, satiny, silky leg coverings anyway. So once you've got the collar basted on, then you can go through and do one of the side seams and then just the top of the other one. This pattern is designed to have an invisible zipper, but like I said last time, or a little bit ago, I will be probably doing it with a regular zipper next time, because invisible zippers can be a little flimsy, and if you do it right, then a regular zipper works just fine anyway. So yes, once the bodice is basically, the exterior bodice is basically assembled, then I add the lining, and I put my bodice on the dress form to do that, simply because by this point it is basically in a 3D shape, and I want to make sure that it matches up at certain points and relaxes at certain points. I do have to say that if you are doing a full lining for this, to make sure you do the opposite seam on the lining as opposed to the bodice to leave the gap, because when you turn the lining right side out, that is going to be the inside of your bodice. So you want to leave a gap there on the left side as opposed to the right side, so that you have space to have the zipper, as opposed to having to rip out an entire seam and put in a whole new seam like I did. It was just a wee bit frustrating. So yes, once you've done that, you can, well, I assembled the skirt. The only thing I regret doing is not putting pockets in this, but I wasn't sure about how to go about that, simply because I was making this as a good occasion dress, and it, well, most good occasion dresses I've ever had don't have pockets. But it also had a side seam, and I just wasn't too sure about how to go about that. So I didn't. So next time I think I will put pockets in, since I've watched a couple tutorials on how to do it with zippers. If you're curious about how to do it, I'd recommend a couple other videos. I'll try to list them down below if I can remember to do that. There's some really good ones out there, and I've watched quite a few before. I will probably be trying to do it with a couple projects next year, but I'll get more into next year's projects in the next video. So yes, once you've clipped corners and turned lining to inside and pressed all edges, etc., then you assemble the skirt, and once that is assembled, then you can attach skirt floof or lining if you choose to do so, and then insert zipper and finish sleeves. So if you have questions, feel free to comment down below. I will say that personally, I love how my dress turned out. You'll see it at the very end of the video. But at this point, I'm not really sure what else to say. So I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.